The function of the true spiritual master, you see, is to bring an end to all of this seeking. The function of esoteric and exoteric teachers is to serve the search itself. The spiritual master, the true spiritual master in the highest terms, comes to criticize and bring an end to the search itself. My criticism is constantly directed toward the phenomena you may attain through seeking. All of this ordinary stuff that you learn to enjoy in the earlier stages of your life, all the money, food, and sex distractions that you use to indulge yourself separately in your fear, are criticized by me. This discipline obliges you to transcend all of that, all of your limited self-possessed involvement in such things, and make them into human occasions. Just so, my criticism extends to all of the phenomena of the mystical, inward life that has been presumed by great masters throughout human time to be the answer to the motive of seeking for release. My communication to you is that the motive itself, or the search for release, is false and is not the expression of your true humanity. It's not the expression of your fulfillment of the law. You must explore and adapt within the framework of your lower life and your higher life every aspect of the body-mind must be available for your adaptation and your understanding. But the truth of our existence has nothing whatever to do with perfection in this world or the attainment of some inward mystical plane of distraction and consolation that enables us to escape this world. The truth of our existence is in responsibility for the contraction of the self upon itself, so that it meditates on all of its experiences, high and low, and makes them into truth. The truth of our existence is in self-transcendence, communion with the all-pervading radiance. When we enter into such communion and transcend ourselves, we are love. The body itself becomes radiant. What is our destiny ultimately then? Not to go within, nor even to perfect this world. Our destiny is to be enlightened, literally, bodily. To become light, bodily, is the destiny of man. To achieve that degree of radiance in which this manifestation, bodily, literally bodily, becomes unnecessary. When you achieve that degree of radiance, then you'll pass into another plane of existence. Therefore, in the seventh stage of life, you see, we enter into that plane of radiance and are transfigured. If we can enter into the stability of that transfiguration while alive, then we have fulfilled the law. We have become love as man and transcend this earth, this world, in that very lifetime. If we can persist in that transfiguration, various kinds of extraordinary transformations may occur in us and through us, even to the point where the physical body, at the point of our apparent death or disappearance, dissolves in light. As I said, however, these more extraordinary expressions of the transfigured state are more likely to be the demonstration of human beings much further on down the line in time. because there must be certain physical conditions established that only the generations can communicate to one another before such supernormal transformation becomes typical or even occasionally likely. But transfiguration is sufficient. In this transfigured bliss of unqualified love, the body does become radiant. The mind is fundamentally dissolved. The body is truly dissolved in light in the transfigured condition. The sense of the definition of the body, of its utter separation and the separation of consciousness from the transcendental consciousness, dissolves, disappears. So in the transfigured bliss of the devotee in the seventh stage of life, fundamentally the body-mind has dissolved. And that is sufficient to enable us to have fulfilled the law as man. And that is our obligation. There fundamentally is no escape from this body, this manhood, or this earth without fulfilling the law as man, without fulfilling the law on earth. We can enter into some inward state in which we become fundamentally insensitive to the physical, but we cannot escape the realm of earth. We can't break through the atmosphere of earth in general without perfectly fulfilling the law bodily. So mere inwardness, the escape into psychism, is not release, nor is it God realization, nor do those who enter into mystical retreat necessarily become full of love. All of you have practiced one or another form of mysticism, of some kind or other, probably. Many of you have. Many of you have had intimate contact, or some sort of contact with people who are fanatically involved in some kind of mystical activity, meditational cult and so forth. Were they superior human beings? Were they transformed into love by this process of inwardness? No. I've met them all over the world. That's not what happens at all. It's not what happened to me. I did not come to fulfill the law any more profoundly by virtue of all kinds of psychic and mystical phenomena. That was the whole point. That's what I realized in the midst of all of that it made not the slightest bit of difference that that matter of the heart was a responsibility that persisted under all conditions and had not the slightest thing to do with whether or not I had attained a mystical state of mind, whether I'd achieved some sort of pleasurable circumstance in my ordinary bodily relations. The matter of love, or the transcendence of this contraction of the body, of the entire body-mind, was my responsibility under all conditions. And I was just as likely to be self-possessed in the midst of visions, you see, as I was in physical pain. So nothing is added by experience to our capacity to fulfill the law. That is a responsibility which you must become responsible for moment to moment. And that is the test of human life. And as you mature as a human being, you naturally will pass through adaptation, evolutionary adaptation, an increase of your grown responsibilities relative to this elemental aspect of our existence and relative to the more psychic dimensions, or higher dimensions of the body-mind. The capacity to fulfill the law will not be increased by those things themselves. You must fulfill the law then under those circumstances. The fulfillment of the law, the transcendence of the contraction of the whole body at the point of the heart, is the spiritual matter. And this is my communication, my teaching, you see? So you must understand this motive in your own fear that makes you make idols out of your experience, that makes you seek inwardly and outwardly for consoling distractions that will make it unnecessary for you to feel fear, will also make it unnecessary for you to love. Because to love, you must enter into all of the ordinary and extraordinary possibilities of human circumstance, all of which have the power to limit you, have the power to make you feel independently conscious. So the spiritual test, the true test of man, is his capacity to persist as love, self-transcendence, submission bodily, whole bodily, into the radiant divine reality. If he does so, then all the mechanisms of the body-mind become available for adaptation, growth, and ultimate transcendence. When all the aspects of this mechanism that is human become known to you, and you have realized fully, under all the conditions of human experience, the radiant and living divine reality, then you are entered into the seventh stage of life. And the seventh stage of life doesn't involve all kinds of strange, complicated, magical, mystical techniques. It is simply that in the seventh stage of life, the fundamental, most direct responsibility of man becomes your moment-to-moment capacity. Moment to moment, you have the capacity to transcend the contraction of radiance, the contraction of love or bliss. Bodily, psychically, mentally, you are creatively involved in that process. While you are growing toward the seventh stage of life, you must constantly enter into communion with that reality, constantly struggle with the lesser level of adaptation you may represent at this moment. Struggle with the obligation to adapt consciously to more of the body-mind itself, and to be love in the midst of whatever limiting circumstance you exist or conceive yourself to exist, so that you may come to the moment where you are alive in the seventh stage of life, in which there is nothing hidden about your manhood, your womanhood, your humanity. It is possible to come to that condition of experiential realization in which there is nothing any longer hidden about you. Everything about you, everything about what it is to be a human being, everything that may be experienced as a human being, by a human being, is completely obvious to you. And so, having entered into that position of self-knowledge, you have no further adaptation as man to do. You live as that fully adapted man or human personality, persisting as communion, surrender into the divine radiance. And therefore, even your bodily existence becomes more and more profoundly transfigured by that surrender, that communion. Mm-hmm. And it transcends all of the inwardness of the conventional search, all the phenomena of the psyche, of the mind, of mysticism and so forth, tend to be transcended in the simple blissfulness of consciousness. And likewise, all of the aberrated, subhuman or lesser adapted motivations of the body-mind are also transcended. The individual in the seventh stage of life is fully human. Every aspect of his psychophysical life is animated, but all of it as a form of bliss, happiness, God love. Such an individual no longer has any answers, you see. He's not answered, he's not consoled, he has no question at all. He is surrendered into the questionless, answerless, absolute radiance or love that is reality, that is the living God, that is the truth of the body, the truth of the mind, the truth of the world. It's in the seventh stage of life that, from the point of view of adaptation to the totality of what we are as a human being, we may fulfill the law, moment to moment, in all of our relationships. And it remains a creative struggle, even in the seventh stage, you see. We're no longer working within and up to get rid of this life. We are simply this life. We are profoundly this life from the point of view of God realization. We are not looking to realize God. God is already realized. God is our very existence, our very self. Therefore, the work of our existence becomes that of incarnation, to live the divine radiance in this form until this form falls away. It is not our business to terminate it, but to fulfill the law under these conditions as long as they persist. So even in the seventh stage, there is no end to this struggle. In fact, in the seventh stage, it has taken on a kind of immensity that the ordinary, lesser adapted personality doesn't even imagine. Because in the seventh stage, there is a full awakening of all of the aspects of one's functional consciousness. The psyche is awake, and everything is perfectly obvious. So the infinity of even this ordinary room is obvious, but so also are all of the petty and monstrous difficulties of human life as it is now lived on this planet. It seems like because we have, through the method of science, become capable of creating atomic destruction, that there is the possibility that this Earth could come to an end even very soon. But man is so unevolved that that's not very probable. There needs to be a place like this. If the world were blown up and there were no Earth at all, everybody would be stopped in the midst of this incarnation. Everybody would be floating in space in this dense atmosphere of exploded Earth matter with no place to collect and carry on their idiocy. So the Earth is perfectly suited, even in its present limitations, for what the mass of humanity is up to. And everybody dies from time to time and simply falls into the subtler atmosphere of the Earth and is born again. It's just the physics of things. This cycle of birth and death, in which nothing great is accomplished merely by dying. It is just a time of refreshment, something like going to sleep at night and you wake up bodily refreshed the next day. Death is a kind of sleep of the elemental part. So there's death. You enter into the etheric or astral aspects of the earth plane and then return in another birth, without much memory, without representing anything superior to what you were the last day you were alive in your past incarnation. So birth and death is not the point, except to those who are afraid, you see. So the Earth probably will persist in some form as a habitable planet for human beings, at least a certain number. Maybe they will blow up a whole bunch of it, who knows? But it seems probable that humanity will somehow persist on this planet because it must. We have the karma of future persistence, you see. probably are not any more capable of blowing ourselves up completely than we are of going to the next galaxy by concentration in the brain core. Doesn't mean that there can't be all kinds of suffering brought to human beings in this particularly difficult time of transition, when there is so much capacity for technological exploitation of the earth and of human beings and so little wisdom about human life. And there can be war, even atomic war, and great suffering on the earth due to various causes, natural and human. The probability is, however, that the line of humanity will continue on this earth because man in his present state is adapted only to the lowest dimension of his existence. The earth has not fulfilled its purpose. And you will not have fulfilled the purpose of your birth by mere inwardness, by mystical pleasures, by meditating 6 hours a day. The purpose of your existence is fulfilled when you may persist as love under all of the conditions of existence, when you don't have to go within to find God. When God is obvious, and when you must be the devotee of God bodily.